Experience action. Let's stop just talking about customer experience, employee experience, and the experience of leaders. Let's turn ideas into action. Your host, Jeannie Walters, is an award-winning customer experience expert, international keynote speaker, and founder of Experience Investigators, a strategic consulting firm helping companies increase sales and customer retention through elevated customer experiences. Ready, set, action.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's the Experience Action Podcast. I'm Jeannie Walters. We have such a good question. I can't wait to dive in. Here we go.
Hello, Jeannie. What do you recommend to organizations who have customer pain points but do not have the necessary data? The situation may arise due to issues such as lacking a data warehouse, poor data collection or management, or outdated systems that do not collect the necessary data. I would be curious what you say to situations where the pain points could be set aside because of the manual process involved to collect data, and it may not be worth the time and effort when considering ROI. How should someone representing CX pursue resolution of the pain points when facing limited data? And should these pain points go unanswered or addressed later when data maturity allows for it?
Oh my goodness. First of all, let me say, listener, I feel your pain. When we are asked as leaders to justify everything we do with appropriate data or to at least include the data to make decisions, sometimes while that should be a very logical approach, it actually kind of puts handcuffs on us, doesn't it? So based on where you are, you might be defining data or data, depending on your vibe. You might be defining it a certain way. And I encourage you to, first of all, kind of open your mind to what data can be. That includes things like anecdotal data. And I know the data scientists out there are cringing as I say that, but hear me out. We are talking about human beings whenever we're talking about customer experiences. Human beings make no sense. We say one thing and we behave differently. We sometimes ask for a bunch of features in products that we will never, ever use. We often will say that we're going to never shop here again and storm out, and then click on the online store in the car before we leave the parking lot. My point here is that a lot of the data that we receive, it's indicators, it's signals, it's helpful. We should absolutely use the data we have, but let's think about what other data we have that could help tell that story. So one of the things I heard was, we might have outdated systems. We might not have that data warehouse. We might have manual process that is how we input or receive insights from the data that is very time consuming. And there are a couple options here I would love for you to consider. One is, what is that data going to do for you? If you have a plan, if you have a goal, let's say you know some of these pain points, right? I have been in meetings where we say, wow, this part of the journey really stinks. And everybody looks at each other and says, oh my gosh, customers hate it. It's not good for us because it requires all this service stuff or more processing or whatever. And then I've seen leaders who look at each other and say, well, I guess we should send out a survey to find out.
Oh, no.
No, we don't need to do that. Some of the data we already know. We know those pain points. You mentioned in your question here that there were certain pain points that maybe you knew about. There is nothing wrong with saying, you know what? We need to work on this, and here's why. Number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, it's going to help us live up to the promise and hopefully the mission statement, if you have one, the customer experience mission statement. And number three, it's going to help us achieve our organizational goals. This is how I want you to think. So if you are, let's say, talking about a pain point that the customers tell you they don't like, and you can draw a line to how that will help either a customer get through the journey more successfully, convert more, or have a reduced experience with service, meaning they don't have to call anybody to get help. They don't have to rely on going to your chatbot to get different forms than the ones they had or anything like that. An example might be one that I hear a lot about in B2B actually is, our customers hate the invoicing process. It's very complicated. It takes them a while to decode all of our PO numbers and different things. And so a lot of times what that does is that means that we get paid late. That's the dotted line I want you to make. I want you to think about what are the results that we're trying to get. And if we improve these pain points, how will that help us move forward? So that's one area to think about. The other area to think about is what data you do have. That could be anything from, if you have a lot of data and you're having trouble with the sorting or you're having trouble figuring out what you need to find. AI is a miracle way to do this right now. There are tools out there, ChatGPT being the most popular and most universal right now, where you can actually say, look through this for me. Find out, answer this question using this data set. There are tools out there that are making this easier. Even if you can't access the data in the right way or something like that, it's a place to start. It's a jumping off place. The other thing is that when we are collecting certain data points around these pain points, and we want to show this to our leadership to get their buy-in, get creative. Storytelling is your superpower here. We don't want to just show charts and graphs. We want to tell them how it's impacting people. A few tools I like to use. One is playing the recordings of people in your contact center struggling. That will humanize the experience and make them feel the pain. Video interviews, video observational work, where you show this is what's actually happening. Talking to your front line, whether that's your customer service reps or your cashiers, talk to the people in the field who are dealing with customers on a regular basis, because they will give you a story that you can then share. And then another simple technique, this is technical, stay with me. Let's say you have a zillion surveys and you get that feedback back, but you're just trying to tell a part of the story about one part of the journey. You don't need to look through all a zillion of them. If you can say, you know what, I grabbed a sample of 50 surveys and we found that this word came up all the time. Frustrated, right? That's a powerful word. Then you can say the second most popular word in these 50 was something like never, meaning I'm never coming back. You can find interesting little tidbits that you can turn into a story.
Aha!
And that's data too. So one of the ways you can do that is simply by pulling a sample that is manageable. And then you can also do things like, when you are looking at all of the sample together, you can make a word cloud with some of those things. Those are just a few ideas. Reach out for your data. Look for where it is and make sure that you're being creative about it, but also don't let it stop you. There are tools on the site that can help you, but I would also recommend a blog article I wrote quite a while ago called How to Use Imperfect Data to Deliver a Perfect Customer Experience. That's a strong statement, but you get the idea. And we'll make sure that's in the show notes. I totally appreciate that many of you don't have the tools to really deliver on this. 2 tools I would recommend. One is a CX punch list. We just did a LinkedIn Live about this and a blog about this. We'll put that in the show notes as well, because the idea is you make it a little bit of a sprint to fix all those little things. So if you have a laundry list of little pain points for your customers, there is really no excuse not to fix them. The second is a priority matrix. That can help you determine what will have the most impact on our customers and what is feasible to get done. Where can we put that effort? What will we be able to accomplish? And the ones that maybe are less feasible, you need to make that bigger business case around and start connecting to results, connecting to the outcomes that you want. Data is so fascinating because we've got so much of it that it almost becomes unwieldy. But I encourage you that wherever you are, even today, if you just opened up a store today on Main Street and you had no systems, by the end of that day, you have data on your customers. You have data on if they actually walked in. You have data on the questions they asked. You have data on what they tried on versus what they didn't. All of these different things. Now, is that scientifically significant and can you use that for a corporation? Probably not. But you can get creative about how you look at data. You can make a business case and you can deliver for your customers and your organization. I hope this was helpful. I love this question. Please reach out if you have more questions. check out those tools, those articles, and other things that we have available. And for those of you who are listening to this who haven't yet heard that we have launched the waitlist for CXI Flight School, please check that out, cxiflightschool.com. CXI is our framework. It stands for Customer Experience Investigation. It's a registered trademark for us. And that's because I'm a big believer in exactly what we just talked about. We need to look around and get creative. We need to figure out, where do we need to look? What do we need to explore? How do we need to connect these dots? And it can get really overwhelming for a lot of CX leaders. So the idea of Flight School is to give you the tools and guidance to really set up for success. Because the more that I interact with leaders, I realize how many are really not set up for success. And I believe that you can do this. I believe that every organization in the world can benefit from leaders just like you, which is pretty exciting. So I hope you'll check that out, cxiflightschool.com. Until next time, please leave me your questions. Please keep fighting the good fight for your customers and get creative with your data. You have my permission. To learn more about our strategic approach to experience, check out free resources at experienceinvestigators.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter, our Year of CX program, and more. And please follow me, Jeannie Walters, on LinkedIn.